Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Inter, and welcome back to the channel, and today we have some OB3 balanced notes that they went over on the Titan Talk. They did some preliminary notes a few days ago, but there's a lot of changes and a lot of new things that are going to be launching in OB3 in terms of balance that weren't in those original notes. And so we're going to go over the new stuff as well as a couple of hotfixes, as you can see one on screen here that they've released sort of in the interim. So first up, this patch released yesterday, it's already live, and we got some Batz nerfs and some Screeching Gargoyle nerfs. So Batz, they have decreased the damage scaling on his 1 by 10%. Overhand Smash, they have decreased the proc shred from 2 to 6, it's now 2 to 4, and also increased the cooldown instead of 12 down to 8, it's now 12 down to 10. And I think these are reasonably good nerfs. They're definitely hitting the right things, the cooldown and the proc shred. I think the proc shred could have gone lower, honestly. I would have put it down to like 10 personally, just because flat shred is so unavailable in Smite 2 with the removal of flat pen from all of the items and stuff. Like, if they're going to keep giving flat shred to gods like this, they should maybe just add flat pen back to the game, or, you know, don't do this kind of stuff where you give gods 24 flat shred. That was obviously going to be a problem. It's now at 16, which is a good nerf, but honestly, I might have nerfed it even more. And then the cooldown nerf is good, in my opinion. This should not have been on 8 seconds in Smite 2 when it's shredding 24 of your procs and also stunning you with the aspect. So yeah, good nerf overall. They could maybe even go higher in the cooldown and lower on the proc shred if he's still a problem, but these are some good initial nerfs to it. Fear No Evil, they have decreased the base damage per tick by 10 and the scaling per tick by 2.5, and this ticks every quarter second, so if you're in there for 1 second, you know, it's 40 base damage and 10% strength scaling. It's fairly significant. And this will nerf both aspect Batz and base Batz. At the aspect specifically, they have decreased the slow on the passive in-hand cancels from 20% to 10%. The 2's damage scaling with the aspect on from 40 down to 20% strength, so it's definitely very low now. And also the stun duration from 0.85 to 1.05, it's now 0.55 to 0.75, so a pretty significant nerf on the stun duration as well. And I think these are overall good nerfs to the aspect. You know, taking down the scaling, it's not going to be as good on like full damage Batz now. You might actually have to want to go like bruiser or full tank to use the aspect. And then the slow was really oppressive, that's good to see, and then the stun duration obviously needed to go down. So yeah, overall pretty good Batz nerfs in my opinion. Will it be enough? We'll have to see. I think this is some pretty heavy-handed nerfs, so I think, you know, see where he's at after this, and maybe he might need a little bit more. We'll have to see. And then Gargoyle nerf is good in my opinion. They've just decreased the silence duration from 2 seconds to 1 second, which I think is good. You know, this is going to be a little bit more of like an interrupt now, rather than straight up locking people out of abilities for extended periods of time. And this item was just in like every support build, every solo build, a lot of jungle builds. It was just way too strong. So good to see a nerf for that there. But let's move on to, I think we have one more hotfix here where Jing Wei also got some changes. Yeah, Jing Wei, the one no longer deals full damage knock up to enemies who walk into it after the initial deploy, which is really good. Sometimes you would miss this, but then you would like kind of continue your momentum and walk into it, still get knocked up even though it was already deployed. So that's good. Essentially, this ability now has one major tick that happens at the start and then minor ticks for the rest. And then also Explosive Bolts no longer provides the bonus damage whatsoever to your basic attacks, which is good. Jing Wei's going to need more than this in my opinion. She's just out and out the best ADC in the game by a decent margin. She'll probably need more, but these are some good changes in general. Moving into the official balance though, I'm only going to cover the new stuff or the stuff that was removed from the previous balance notes. I do have a video on the previous balance notes, and I will leave everything on screen if you want to pause and read some of the changes. But I'm only going to go over the changes that are new to the OB3 balance notes that they didn't already reveal in detail. So first up, Mantle of Discord is being added to the game, which is really cool. 2600 gold, 35 of each procs, 10 cooldown rate, and then the same passive from Smite 1. If you take damage below 40% health, you stun everyone around you and become CC immune. Cooldown 110. And I think this item's going to be really good, to be honest. I think you're going to want this in a lot of tank builds. The base stats are pretty attractive, much better than like Spirit Robe as like an alternative, for example. And with how bursty Smite 2 is and how quickly tanks die in the late game, this could really save you. You know, if you get like CC chain, you know, a couple of CCs hit you and you're going down to like a really low health, this will pop and save you. Whereas before, like if you get CC'd a couple of times as a tank in the late game in Smite 2, you're just kind of dead. This will probably save you from a lot of scenarios. It is a 110-second cooldown, fairly long, but it will save you a lot of time. I think this item's going to be good. Tekko Kage and Gem of Focus, they can now be used on Thanatos and Yamoja. Yeah, no longer require mana, but stuff like Pele's 3 and Ula won't be able to proc it. And this is good, I think. Thanatos is going to be an incredible user of Tekko Kage. The only reason he didn't build it is because he couldn't build it. Now that he can build it, he's definitely going to want to use it. The movement speed is very valuable. You can easily keep it stacked up with this too. It's probably just going to be better than Jotun's on Thanatos. Next up, they have a variety of buffs to intelligence-based items. This is definitely an issue. It's good that they're identifying that intelligence is just performing worse than strength in basically every single way at the moment. Yeah, if you're a mid laner, if you're not playing like Hecate, Vulcan, or Zeus, you're just kind of very sad about it because in-base mid laner builds just kind of suck at the moment. And the only reason Hecate, Vulcan, and Zeus are good is because they're just really good kits. But yeah, the itemization and the builds generally kind of suck for intelligence at the moment, so it's good that they're identifying that. Divine Ruin is the first one up. The int's going from 80 to 100, which is interesting. I know they're trying to buff like a lot of these across the board, but Divine Ruin is like one of the more built items. It's already quite good in my opinion, but 100 int on it is very attractive now. you know, considering how much utility this provides you as well. Chronos Pendant is getting 50 more ints. This was originally 40. They made it 50, and now they're making it 65, which is much more competitive. This is probably more so around the average of what like a typical int item is going to give you that doesn't require like stacking or other stuff like Road to Husi benefits. So it's a little bit more competitive now, probably closer to the average, maybe around the average of like what int items generally have. And of course, it gives you the incredible amount of cooldown reduction. So I think Chronos is probably going to be good now. Will it be a rush? Maybe. I could see people rushing this if they don't want Soul Gem. Maybe if Soul Gem gets another nerf or something like that. But I think in general, you're going to be much more wanting to throw Chronos Pendant into your build if you're really looking for cooldown. I think it's pretty good now. Soul Reaver also getting some very interesting changes. So they've increased the int by 20, decreased the cost by 200. The passive now deals max HP damage instead of current HP, which is an absolutely massive buff. This is now parity with Heartseeker. The reason Heartseeker is so broken is because it's max HP, not current HP. Soul Reaver being current HP just kind of made it awful. In general, current HP does about half the damage of max HP. You know, if you're kind of casting your kit on someone and they're slowly going from 100 to 0, it's going to be an average of, you know, 50% value. Full value at 100% health, no value at 0% health, it's going to be an average of 50. So the buff from current HP to max HP itself is absolutely huge for Reaver. The minimum damage has been removed because you don't need it anymore. That was only there because it was current HP. And the passive will now scale with intelligence. It will be 0.5% of your intelligence with 1% base. And this is still not very competitive with Heartseeker. You know, Heartseeker is 2.5% of your strength. Int is more available than strength, but it's not 5 times more available. Or I guess it will be 3 times as available to get the equivalent amount of like what Heartseeker is giving you. It's not that available, so it's still going to be doing less damage overall than Heartseeker. But the users of Reaver are generally better at using this kind of an item than the users of Heartseeker are. You know, mages have these ranged pokes on very low cooldowns that they can just throw out and proc Reaver. Assassins don't do that as much. They're much more all in. So I do think overall the item's still going to be pretty good. And they're also buffing up a lot of int items so you can get more in your build and make more use of Soul Reaver. I think Soul Reaver is probably back in your builds, I would say, but we'll have to see. Jade Scepter also getting some pretty interesting buffs. They have increased the cost by 300, but also increased the int by 40 and decreased the health by 50. And this item, I think, was already a little bit underrated, in my opinion. I think it's very good for keeping, like, unsafe mid laners safe in fights. You know, stuff like Zeus, Vulcan, maybe Akate, Ra, that kind of stuff. It is countered hard by displacement immunity, so if, like, their jungler is building Parashu and pops it before he goes on you, this is going to do nothing. If you're playing against a Thor or a Loki that press 3 in your face, it's going to do nothing. You got to be careful with that. But against gods with no displacement immunity that aren't building Parashu or Dreamer's Idol, this item could be really good. It can just completely keep you safe on a much lower cooldown than Beads. This is on a 60-second cooldown. Beads is, like, 150, I think. So Jade Scepter can really keep you safe, and the int is very, very good on it now. 120 is absolutely on the upper end of intelligence on items. And so yeah, I do think Jade Scepter actually going to be quite good now. I would highly recommend building it on your more unsafe mid laners if you're worried about junglers and solo laners diving you. You can just pop them off you and also reduce their strength and intelligence if they try and follow up. So yeah, I think Jade Scepter is going to be pretty good. Leather Cowl got some changes that we won't talk about because they were on the previous notes. Again, I'll leave this stuff on screen for a second in terms of the sort of changes that they're making to some of these items. So there's Hunter's Cowl as well, but I'm not going to go over all this stuff in detail because this is something they've already revealed. So Hunter's Cowl, Conduit Gem, Sands of Time as well. Spear of Desolation, I believe they didn't reveal, even though it's not like listed as new. They've added 10 cooldown rate to this. It's probably going to be in every single build now. Maybe they did reveal this, but it's also worth talking about just because I think Spear of Desolation should be in every mid build now. It basically gives you all the stats you need. It's pretty high in. It's got useful passive. It's got percent pen and it's got cooldown. No flat pen, obviously, like Smite 1, but this item's going to be really good now. You should be building it in all your mid builds, I think. Staff of Mirrodin active going down by 30 seconds as well is interesting. I think this item is good on certain picks like Zeus, but it's just kind of hard to use sometimes, so lowering the cooldown will be good. The Primwind change went through, which I think is going to be good. Spirit Robe, this is new. They have increased the procs by 10 on each, so it's actually more procs than Mantle of Discord now. And you also get 30% CCR when the passive procs. So interesting that they're adding CCR back. It is on like a passive cooldown kind of effect, not just a straight up stat, but they are clearly open to adding CCR back to the game, which I think is good. The Mystical Mail change went through. Shield Splitter, this is new. So they've decreased the cost by 150. The projectile is faster, which is good. This always felt very slow. And it now passes through and damages all targets hit with the shield stacking per enemy shield reduced. So this is really interesting. I assume it didn't hit minions before. Maybe it did, but based on this wording, I assume it didn't hit minions. So this might just become like a physical strength version of Lifebinder. Like you can just use this, you can rush it in the early game, it gives you extra wave clear, extra trading potential, especially into shield gods, but even into non-shield gods, the damage is still good. It's not as oppressive as Lifebinder in terms of trading into gods and stuff, but it can just give you extra wave clear, allow you to do side camps more freely and stuff like that. So this might become like a strength version of Lifebinder even with this change. Gilded Arrow and Sharpshooter Arrow changes went through. I'll leave them on screen for a second there if you want to pause and read them, but we've already discussed these in a previous video. Speaking of Lifebinder though, this is is getting a small nerf, so they decrease the damage and heal down to 110 instead of 125 and 130 on the base. The 5 per level is still there, so I'm still going to be incredible. It's still really good for your supports, some solos, some mids. It just gives you extra wave clear, extra trading potential. It's an incredible item. If you have been sleeping on it, it's really good as a rush in a lot of roles. And so it's getting a small nerf, but this won't mean anything. 15 and 20 off of the base numbers. The per level is still going to be the same. It's not really going to change anything. This item's still going to be good. But it is good that they're aware that this item is too strong and that it's on their radar for nerfs. Hussar's Wings, they have increased the cost by 700. It's now 3,700 gold for this item, which I think is a good change. It's a massive nerf, but the item is just so strong into certain picks, like Nemesis, Cupid, that kind of stuff. Like, this item just completely deletes Nemesis from existence. It's part of the reason why Nemesis is so bad, but at least you're going to be paying 700 gold more for that effect now. Ward adjustments as well. They've reduced the reveal radius, but increased the targeter radius, so they will now match. So that's interesting. And that's going to be Smite 1 parity, I believe, is the main reason they're doing this. Void Shield and Void Stone buffs won't be going live. This is something they showcased on the previous notes, and thank God. I think the Void Stone buffs they maybe could have gotten away with, but Void Shield was going to be the best item in the game if they buffed that the way they were considering doing it. It's already a really strong item, so good to see those buffs not go through. The armor changes going through. Again, I'll leave that on screen for a second. The Anher changes are going through, except for the aspect of Pride, where I was going to be able to crit on Impale and Desert Fury. That's not going through. Kabrakan changes going through, increased scaling on basically every ability and a couple of other things. I'll leave that on screen for a second, but this was already showcased. Zeus changes all going through as well, intending to nerf ADC Zeus and buff mid Zeus. Vulcan changes also going through. The Thermal mod buff, Masterwork mod nerf, Earthshaker buff, Aspect of Fortification nerf, and the Medusa nerf also going through, which I think is good. Medusa is too strong, but she's nowhere near as good as Ulla and Jing Wei, in my opinion. They need to look at Ulla and Jing Wei before they look at Medusa, but I'm not opposed to Medusa nerf. She is too strong. But yeah, there you go. That is all of the new stuff from the patch notes. Again, you can go through and pause the video if you want to read the old changes, but we have covered those in a previous video. They were already showcased, so a lot of people probably already know about them. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this stuff. I've already made a video on it. But yeah, plenty of new changes and some changes that aren't going through, like the aspect for Anher and the Void Shield and Void Stone buffs and stuff like that. So I thought I would keep you guys posted because this patch is going to be significantly different to what we initially saw. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know down below. We still don't have a hard date on when OB3 is launching, I don't think, but this will be going live with, the Wandering Market and the new skins and Achilles and then Rama later on. So it should be pretty exciting. Let me know your thoughts down below and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day and peace out, you nerds.